Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about surviving the early years. And by early years, I mean baby and toddler years. You can see here my beautiful babies. They are no longer babies. They are now big strapping lads aged 12 and 15, and we are entering the teen years and dealing with that. But I found that baby and toddler years so difficult. Some people love it, some people sail through it. I was not that person. I really struggled. From 0 to 3, I just found it hard. And then by the time Daniel was 3, we started all over again. So for 6 years, it was a struggle. I didn't particularly enjoy motherhood at that time, although I loved my babies. And now, of course, I wish I could go back just for a day and cuddle my babies again. But I don't really want to re-experience 0 to 3 because I just found it really hard. When Daniel was a baby, we moved to Lancashire from London when I was 20 weeks pregnant, so didn't know anybody. Grant had lost his job. We were starting from scratch. He was unemployed for a long time. It was really stressful. And when Daniel was 6 months old, my mom had a stroke. She was living near us, and it was a really hard time. And then when Noah was a baby, we were more settled. We were better off financially because Grant was employed and my mom had recovered her health. But then you're dealing with 2 kids at the same time, and that has its own challenges. So I just wanted to talk to you about how to kind of navigate through those early years and come out of it on the other side sane and intact, or somewhat sane and intact. Some of the things that helped me may help you if you're also struggling, or if you just find it a tough time, because it is so intense. You have to be on all the time. You have to be on mentally, like what are your kids doing, and planning and organizing, and just kind of aware of what they're doing, and give them your attention. And it's demanding physically because you might be sleep deprived, you might be breastfeeding or pregnant at the same time, you're chasing after toddlers and babies, you have to lift them and carry them, and you're being touched all day, and there's noise. And those are some of the reasons that I found it really challenging. I have sensory processing problems, so I can't tune things out the way normal people can, and I get overstimulated easily. So yeah, those are some of the reasons I found it challenging. You might also find it challenging for those reasons, and these are some of the things that helped me. I do want to preface this by saying that I'm kind of talking to stay-at-home moms or even dads, because that is my experience that I'm talking from. I cannot imagine juggling full-time work and a child. Like, hats off to moms who do that. Hats off to all moms. It's hard no matter which way you do it. But these tips are kind of for stay-at-home moms because, like I said, that is what I experienced, and that is its own kind of challenge. It can be really intense, just like being with your kid all the time, and that is what I'm speaking to. These tips are in no particular order. I just kind of jotted them down as they came to mind, and I'll just share them as they are in my notes. So the first tip is to trade off babysitting. We moved to England before we had kids. Our families were in South Africa, and we did not have family near us. And it takes a while to form kind of deep friendships as well. So we didn't have close family to just drop the kids off with or call on for free babysitting. We kind of had to do without or make arrangements with our friends. And I found trading babysitting super helpful, because then you don't have to feel like you owing somebody if they've done you a favor, or you don't have to be out of pocket because, you know, especially if you've stopped work to be home with the kids, money can be really tight. And to find money to go out on a date night is one thing, but to pay a babysitter on top of that can just be too much. It helps to get your kids into bed first so that your friend doesn't have to deal with your kids, because you would want the same if you were babysitting her kids. And it gives you a bit of a break also if you going to babysit for a friend. You'll be like, hubby, get the kids into bed, I'm babysitting for my friend. And you go over there and she's got her kids into bed, and hopefully, and you can kind of sit and chill. So it's a bit of a respite. But it's not just evenings that I'm talking about. I'm talking about during the day. If you need to go and have your hair cut, your friends can watch your kids, and then when they need to go to the doctor, you'll watch their kids. It's just common sense, really. But also, when you borrow kids, I just found it really helped. You'd think that having more kids in your house would add to the chaos, but it actually is entertainment for your children. and it's just a break from routine, and it can really help. So it's great when you get a break from your kids and they go to your friend's house, but when you have your friends' kids at your house, that also helps as well. And on the topic of friends, I found that to be vital. Find other friends who are in the same stage of life as you. It is so helpful to have a support network of friends who are in the trenches right along with you. You can go to each other's houses and have the kids play together and just put your feet up for a bit. They get what you're going through, what you're busy experiencing with your baby or toddler. It's gold if you can also add to your tribe some women who are slightly ahead of you in the game, because then you can learn from their experience and wisdom as well. Part of putting yourself out there and making those connections is get off your phone and get with them in real life. When I had little kids, there was no social media. There wasn't even really texting. We had like old school phones, not smartphones, and you could text each other, but we didn't really do that. My friends and I spoke on the phone with each other every day, and we actually got together, and I think that makes such a huge difference. Flicking a text or receiving a text, it'll help in that moment. You know, you'll feel connected in that moment, but then that moment passes and the loneliness doesn't really go away. Because being a mom of little kids, especially if you like stay at home with kids and you don't go out to work, can be so lonely. So get off your phone and just get together in real life. It makes such a difference. So how do you make these friends? How do you find them? You have to put yourself out. Going to play groups can really help, and I know that it's not for everyone. Not every play group is going to suit you. You're going to go there and there's going to be moms who you just don't connect with. You can make your own play groups if you want to and attract the kind of people that are similar minded to you, or just shop around through the different play groups. There's Facebook groups, there's church groups, there's different ways of finding the groups. And then put yourself out when you're there to try and make a connection with women. I mean, everybody's going to be sitting there small talking. That's what you do with a stranger. But if you can get beyond that, ask interesting questions about themselves, get to know them. And you might find people who kind of hate the playgroups as much as you do and who think the way you do, and then go off and form your own group. When Daniel was a toddler, and I think after Noah was born, there wasn't really a play group that suited me or met my needs, shall we say. And so I started my own. There were women at church who I wanted to hang out with, and we weren't necessarily all like right in the same neighborhood. We lived near each other, but we wouldn't necessarily attend the same kind of leisure center or whatever public play groups at the same time. So I made my own, and we'd rotate through each other's houses. Whoever was hosting would provide a snack and a drink. Everyone would come to their house, and then you'd go to somebody else's house next time, and it kind of spread the load a bit. And that was really helpful. And then once it had served its purpose and I no longer needed it, I could kind of exit the group, and the group kept on running because it was set up to kind of run itself. You just decide who hosts and you take turns, and that's how it worked. It didn't need me to run the group. But like I said, you have to put yourself out there. When Daniel was a toddler, we were at church and we noticed some new people had arrived and moved into the area and like begun attending church. And I approached that mom and I said, "Hi, how are you? This is my name. We both have little kids." Her daughter was, I think, 19 months younger than Daniel, but like we both had young children. And I said to her, you know, like, "Here's my number. If you need anything, let me know." And she gave me her number. And then later in the week, I gave her a call and I said, "Hey, I'm going to take Daniel down to the park. Do you want to join us?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'd like to know where the parks are in the area." And we actually became super, super close friends. It may have happened anyway, but, you know, putting myself out there and approaching her and working to form a friendship, making an effort, made me a really, really good friend. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to approach me, or, you know, if you're the new one in the area, don't wait for people to approach you. You can approach them, say, "Where are the good places to go? Where are child-friendly cafes? Or where'd you like to hang out?" And make that connection, make that effort. My next tip is to just get out of the house. If your kid is screaming, if you're both bored, if things are just getting too much for you, just get out, just go for a walk. Being in the outdoors kind of dilutes everything. It dilutes those intense feelings you might have of like, oh, and it dilutes your baby's crying if they're yelling. Just get out of the house. And I'm saying get out of the house when I was like living in England with babies and toddlers. There are places you can go. Obviously you don't want to go to the library if your kid's screaming, but if they're not screaming, if you're all just bored and fed up, go to the library. That's indoors. So if the weather's bad, there's no excuse there. Or if the weather's good, go for a walk. Even if it's cold, just bundle up, put on a blanket over your baby and just go. Get outside. It really helps. Sometimes getting out of the house is just this mammoth task that you just can't tackle, or maybe it's late in the day, you're running out of time to actually go anywhere and get back and do your dinner, or whatever your reasons are. I had postnatal depression, and so something like getting everybody organized and out of the house was just overwhelming. But I find bath time really helps. If your baby is fractious, if your toddler is whining, if it's all just becoming too much for you, stick them in the bath. It's like an amazing reset. It really, really helps. And if you need to feel productive, then clean the bathroom while you're in there with them, or read a book or something. Even take your ironing, do it on the landing outside the bathroom door if you need to. Stick them in the bath, it resets. It's amazing. My next tip is please ask for help if you need to, or at the very least accept help if it's offered to you. You'll have people saying to you, oh, I just love baby cuddles, I'll watch your baby for you. Take them up on that. Say, hey, yeah, I'd love that. I would really like to go grocery shopping without a baby in tow. Can you look after my child for 40 minutes? Or whatever. If somebody offers you help, take them up on it. If somebody offers you babysitting, take them up on it. If they didn't really mean it and they were just being polite and saying it, that's their problem. If they offer help, accept it. And please, if you need help, if you're struggling, then ask for help. There's no shame in asking for help. In fact, it can take someone really strong to ask for the help that they need when they need it. So just do it. People are willing to help. You'd be willing to help somebody else, wouldn't you? I remember a time when I think Daniel was in school and Noah was older, and I was like, okay, I can like cope again. And I had a friend who had her first baby, and she rang me during the week and she was like, I am struggling so bad, please help. Like that was all she could say, was please help. And luckily for me, Grant was home at the time, and you know, he could like look after Noah, and I could get in the car and just go over. And I went over to her house, and there was nothing major going on, nothing was, you know, falling apart, but she just felt like it was too much that day. And I got to sit on the couch and chat with a friend and cuddle her baby, and it was great. And even if it was hard, like at times her baby was crying, I knew that it was finite. I could hand that baby over after however much time, an hour or two, and go home. So not a big deal. That's how people feel when they help you. And I tell you what, I felt like $1,000,000 for being able to help her. I felt so good. So when you ask for help, you're allowing somebody else to feel like that. So try and remember that and ask for help if you need it. My next tip would be, don't lose yourself. It's so easy to get so wrapped up in your baby and your child that you lose who you are. Do you find yourself every time you're in the car driving somewhere, you're playing kids music, or when the TV's on, there's a kids channel on, or like they can just be kid from every side, and you can lose yourself in that, especially when they're really tiny and it is so all-consuming. But try to find a little bit of space to be you. Put your music on in the car. Your kids can learn to like that kind of music. Or when your kids are napping, don't feel like you have to fill every single nap time with housework. Maybe even one nap out of the week. Just do something for yourself. I used to do that every day. Daniel would go down for a nap, he would sleep for 1 hour, and during that time I would scrapbook. And I so looked forward to that time, and it kind of kept me sane, just to have that one little chunk of time just for me. My next tip is to plan and prepare dinner ahead if possible. Now this may mean chucking something in the crock pot in the morning or during nap time, or it could mean taking a day, maybe when your partner's there to help you with the kids, or trading off babysitting with a friend, and do some batch cooking to stick in the freezer, or just in, you know, prep your stuff for the week. I've done a couple videos on bulk food prep, and it makes such a difference. It doesn't even take that much time, and it makes a huge difference to how dinner time goes for me during the week. But isn't that evening time the witching hour? My mom used to call it suicide hour. You've got telemarketers phoning, your kids are whining, everybody's tired, you've had a busy day, and now you've got to stand and prepare a meal. If you can do any of that ahead of time, any of the prep or even the cooking, it's going to make a huge difference. My next tip is, remember, it is all a phase. If they're doing something adorable and cute and wonderful, that's a phase too. If they're doing something awful, or they're never sleeping, or they won't eat, or they're just whining, that's a phase. It's all just a phase, and although it feels like this is your life now and it's gonna last forever when you're in it, it actually passes really quickly. The days are long, but the years are short, and it does pass. And I promise you, as much as you're struggling in the moment, as much as I struggled, you'll look back and you'll kind of miss it. I mean, I don't miss being immersed in that stage of my life, but I miss my babies. I miss being able to just grab them and squish them on my lap and give them a cuddle, because one of them's taller than me now and the other's fast approaching. So it does pass and you will miss it. So I'm not going to sit and tell you enjoy it, because I can't stand that. When you're struggling and it's hard and you're bored and whatever, when people are like, oh, enjoy every minute of it, it's going to pass. Like, really? Did you enjoy the minute at 3 in the morning when your kid threw up all over your bed? Really? No, I'm not going to sit here and tell you to enjoy it. You may not enjoy it. I didn't especially enjoy those early years, and that's okay. You don't have to enjoy it, but they will pass and you'll have at least some nostalgia for that time. So it's all a phase and it will all pass. Next tip is, try to keep your sense of humor and look for the funny. Kids are so funny, and some of the things they do is so funny. Maybe it doesn't feel funny at the time, all of the time, but if you can try and keep your sense of humor and look for the humor in the situation, then you're going to be much happier. My next tip is to remind you that daycare is not this big, horrible, evil thing. I was kind of, I don't know, I just felt like I had made the decision, or we had made the decision for me to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was my responsibility and my duty and my privilege. And I kind of felt guilty about, or like it wasn't an option to make use of daycare. But I tell you what, if I were to have a child now, I would look into daycare at least one day a week, because I really struggled when they were little, and I really could have done with that break, especially living so far away from family where I just like didn't get a break. It's not a bad thing. If you're looking for someone to tell you it's okay and give you permission to stick your kid in daycare 1 or 2 days a week, or even just a morning a week, this is it. Go for it. If that's what helps you to be sane and relaxed and a happier mom, go for it. If you can afford it and you have the option and that's what you need, there's no shame in it, there's nothing wrong with it. Your child will probably love it, so just go for it. My next tip is to urge you to please look after yourself. It's so difficult to kind of fit that in sometimes. You're tired and you're looking after everybody else, but you know, put on your own oxygen mask first. You cannot give out of an empty bucket, so fill your bucket. Do something for yourself. Make yourself a priority. Yes, you can book a babysitter for the morning and do nothing for the morning. That's okay. If that's what you need to keep you going, to be refreshed and to be you, then go for it. You're going to be a better mom for it. If you are so tired and frazzled and running on empty, you're not going to be much fun to be around, and you're not going to be having much fun. So if you can, try to look after yourself. I do not cope with broken sleep or little sleep, and so when my babies were really tiny and waking in the night, I struggled with that, and I would put them to bed at like 7:30 and I would go to bed at 7:30. And yes, it's hard to give up that time to yourself in the evening, but I knew it was just a phase, and I knew that getting that sleep was more important to me. Maybe you can function on less sleep, and having that time to yourself in the evening once the kids have gone to bed is more important to you. That's fine, but figure out what you need and make it a priority. And along with looking after yourself, I want to urge you to put on a little bit of makeup if you wear makeup. You know, pick out a nice outfit, put on some perfume and earrings. Even if you're just staying home, it can make you feel so much better and so much more on top of things if you just make yourself presentable and kind of look after yourself a little bit. My next tip is about social media consumption. Now, take a moment and appreciate that when my kids were little, there was no social media. I know, can you even imagine it? And I kind of look at social media now, and I'm really glad about that it wasn't there when my kids are little, because I think that the little voice inside your own head can be enough guilt or worry or whatever without getting it from other people as well. So on social media, I would be very selective. Don't look at everything that is all negative. Also, don't look at everything that is all positive, because then you can feel less than. So if you balance it, try and keep your social media consumption realistic. Like, don't follow people if it makes you feel less than or feel worse about yourself. Yes, looking on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever can be super inspiring, but if you find it's making you feel worse about yourself, then cut it out. It's not good for you. It's not worth doing. If you are feeling positive about the things you're consuming in social media, great. If you're not, cut them out. If on Facebook a dear friend of yours tends to post things that make you feel negative, then just unfollow that friend. You don't have to unfriend them, but you also don't need to be exposed to things that make you feel yuck. And along with your social media consumption that you want to have balanced and not have all negative or all positive, balance the social media content that you put out as well. If every single time you are on Facebook posting a status you are being negative, it's just going to bring more negativity into your life. If every single time you're positive, then you just become one of those people who makes everybody else feel worse about themselves because you look like you have it all together. Nobody has it together all of the time, and nobody's life sucks all of the time. So try and be balanced with the social media posts that you put out there as well. My second to last tip would be, please lower your standards. If you're expecting that when you have babies and toddlers, you are going to have a spotless house, you're going to grow your own vegetables, and then you're going to cook them, and then you're going to puree them, and you and your child will always be in an adorable outfit, and you're going to be on time to everything, and you're going to attend all these social events, you're going to be disappointed, and you're probably going to struggle a lot, because that's just not realistic. It's okay if you feed your kid store-bought food like baby food and not homemade pureed food. And there's also shades of grey. There's, you know, shades of grey between I've cooked everything myself and I've bought all of my child's foods. I used to make sure that we always had tinned fruit and vegetables, like without added salt and sugar and whatever. So in a pinch I could just blend that for my baby. You don't have to do elaborate crafts with your toddlers. Like, I never used to do painting with the boys. Okay, I won't say never. I would very rarely get out the paints. I'm like, that is what preschool is for. I am just about trying to cope with the usual messes in the house without going and making more. But then when I did get the paints out, it was this like huge treat, and they would strip down and they would paint each other and paint themselves, and I could stick it in the bath afterwards and feel like super mom. But if you have the goal, like every single day we're going to be doing this educational craft activity, maybe that'll work for you. Great, go for it. But that was just not realistic for me, and I would have felt like a failure if those were my goals, and if my intention was to have a perfectly organized, tidy house, because I did not. And if my goal was to, you know, always be on top of things and basically stop being a perfectionist. Lower your standards. The lower your standards are, the more chance there are that you'll meet them, and the less chance there is that you'll be disappointed. And then the last tip that I wanted to share with you is, please be your own cheerleader. You are doing a great job. I don't even know who you are or what your situation is, but if you are even vaguely worried about being a good mom, you're probably a good mom. So give yourself some credit for that. Is your child alive? Do they feel loved? Are they dressed? You're winning. Give yourself some credit. Give yourself a pat on the back. Cheer yourself on. Give yourself, you know, kudos for anything that you're getting done, because it's hard to get anything done when your kids are little. So make yourself a done list instead of a to-do list. Sit at the end of the day and be like, you know what, I did a load of laundry, I dropped something off at the post office, I fed my kids, and maybe I whizzed around with the vacuum cleaner. Yeah, maybe it's not a lot, maybe it's not what you did before you had kids, or maybe it's not as much as you'd like to get done, but you did it, so give yourself some credit for that. Focus on the things that you do right rather than focusing on the things that you do wrong. Let go of guilt. Honestly, it doesn't serve you at all. I'm actually planning on filming a whole nother video on guilt, so stay tuned for that. I've got a lot to say on that. But let go of it. It's pointless. just be your own cheerleader, be on your own side, and speak to yourself like you would speak to your friends. Be encouraging and supportive of yourself, because you're doing the best you can, and that's great, that's good enough. I promise you, that's good enough. So I hope some of these little tips might have been helpful for you. Like I said, we are long past the stage of babies and toddlers, but I will never forget how hard it was and how intense it was and how exhausting it was. I promise you the stage will pass and you will look back with fondness on those years, even if you're struggling through them. If this video is helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. All I want to do is encourage you, and I hope I've done so today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.